have been raising a lot of money in the United States with models that he thinks aren't going to be as effective as India's model, whatever bucket they're in. Now, you're the one that's thinking about deploying enormous amounts of assets for your country, both in Saudi Arabia and all over the world. And as you're thinking about the most revolutionary set of technologies out there, what are you looking for that's going to make you convinced that this is a winner, this is a loser, as these different countries and different companies are doing very different things?
Yeah, well, first, I think everybody agrees that AI as a general purpose technology is truly the transformation of this century and of our time. However, like transformation before, I think it will quickly be commoditized, and it's not going to be held in any one company or any one country. The race is on. Everybody wants to build the infrastructure for it, but it is I think the essence of AI's power is it has to be accessible. So the words diffusion is not just within economies that have to compete, but I believe it has to be done globally. From our perspective as an energy-producing nation, the diffusion of hydrocarbon energy that Saudi Arabia produced for 9 decades has enabled tremendous human development in countries like India, China, United States, Europe, where that energy transformed economies and people's lives. The internet did the same thing. There were a few companies, Microsoft was one of them, that had the lead, but ultimately it's coming from across the world, including emerging economies and developing nations. We are manufacturing servers for data centers today in Saudi Arabia through partnerships. So we believe that optionality is very important. We don't know who's going to be ahead 4 or 5 years from now. I think it's clear US companies that have broke out of this technology race are ahead today, but the essence of Saudi Arabia's strategy towards AI, it's a huge boost for diversification. Vision 2030, launched by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince almost 10 years ago, was underpinned by diversification using new economies. So the energy transition, although it may appear to be competing with our traditional resource of hydrocarbon energy, is actually a pillar of our diversification. We're going to be 50% renewables in our electricity mix, and that renewable will power AI that is going to be a global commodity that we will work with. And just like India, we know this is not just about infrastructure, data center, and the energy competitive advantage that we believe Saudi Arabia is second to none. We're investing across the technology stack in applications and LLMs and in connectivity. Again, because we believe that this is going to be a global good. So just as important as building the data hub that Saudi Arabia is building, we need to be connected. And we are connected to Europe, Asia, countries like India, China, Japan, because we want that data and that AI power to be transmitted across border and across economies.
Now, as we think about AI as having dual-use capabilities, as the United States government is leaning more into industrial policy with other countries around the world, as the Chinese also have a lot of leverage in the investments that they make and that they accept, are you feeling any geopolitical pressure in the decisions that you make from an investment perspective into these areas?
Quite frankly, we have invested across the globe, and we have invested in Saudi Arabia with companies from East and West. US is huge today because of their technology lead, as I mentioned, but we've also had investments with Chinese companies in China and digital technologies. We've invested with Japanese companies, Korean companies, across the technology sectors that we invest in. So optionality is very important. It's something we have now, and we protect because we believe that we are the owners of our own destiny, and we will not let go of that. Well, first of all, I would disagree with coming from scratch. You'll be surprised how tech-savvy and tech-native the Saudi population is. 70% of the Saudi population are below the age of 35, and the majority of them are as comfortable with digital technologies as any other country in the world. In terms of policy and regulation, when Vision 2030 was launched by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, we identified technology as the key enabler, AI included, and started building the policy, the regulation, the platforms within the country, the data centers for the sovereign data sovereignty that was key for portions of the data. But in addition to data privacy, we had an open data. We talked about diffusion and access to compute, but access to data to achieve the same purpose of research, drug discovery, productivity improvement. Having a policy also of open access to data was a pillar that was launched before COVID. This is back in 2018 and 19. We have a ministry-level organization called SADAYA, the Saudi AI and Data Authority, that regulates and sets the guidelines with flexibility to allow the evolution of AI to take place and the innovation to take place. But it also protects and regulates and makes sure ethical standards. Within the UNESCO, Saudi Arabia was one of the first countries that proposed guidelines for the country on ethics in AI. Then we create a national champion, which is co-invested by the PIF, our sovereign wealth fund, and Aramco, that is investing at scale way beyond the need of Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. Because as I mentioned in my first question, we think AI is going to be a very key pillar of the global economy, and it's going to be globally traded, and therefore connectivity. And we are playing to our strengths, but we're also quickly bridging the gaps that we recognize we have. So we're developing our own LLM. SADAYA developed the first Arabic large model called Alam, and now it's owned by Humane, which is our national champion, and they're building on it. We have applications. I can tell you many use cases where over the last few years we have deployed AI applications in healthcare. It has cut the time to diagnose diabetic eye disease by 80%, and the rate of and the thousands of man hours of clinical physician hours have been saved in that case. We have our renewable energy company, Aqua Power. They have cameras on the blades of their winds that identify birds approaching from far away, and if they think they're coming near the windmill, they shut.
You got to tell President Trump about that.
They shut. Okay, the same company have reduced their chemicals in water desalination by 30% using AI, and the use cases are abundant. So we're not starting from scratch, going back to Kristalina. We're in your first category. Well, you know, generally, I think the concern we have with AI is biases in the data sets that the models have been learning from. So as someone who's coming from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, it's important for us to also build our own sovereign models and to make sure that unbiased data is fed and taught to the models so that they are fit for purpose for us. They need to be consistent with our values. And our value sets have to be protected because AI, as we gain all of the efficiency and productivity and competitiveness that we inevitably will gain, we also don't want to lose our value and our character. And that, I think, is an issue of global governance where we have to recognize that these models and these applications cannot be developed in one country, say Europe, US, China, whatever it is, and then assumed to be relevant and applicable to every other country.